All right, guys, welcome to today's recap. This is Christian from Hertz, Tribeca Trade Group, and it is Wednesday, March 28th. And tomorrow we have month end and we have quarter end tomorrow. So we'll see what kind of price action we get tomorrow. Today, pretty nasty price action, I would say. Even though the S&P only finished down 20 basis points, it just kind of felt like a struggle all day long today. So we're right at this 200-day moving average. It's being defended a little bit, I would say. I'll go through the option activity. A lot of puts today, a lot of puts. That's one thing that you could maybe take away from the day. I would say one of the most positive things that you could take away is that the option activity that has been coming out. They've really been pressing the puts. You could say total preliminary option volume that came out from Trade Alert, 21.8 million contracts, 8% above recent average, and you could see that puts are really leading here. And I think maybe every day, except for one day, 1 or 2 days, we've seen just the put activity really pick up. That's how it was on the open. We just saw a lot of names, with this story out by Amazon. I really don't want to talk too much about Amazon. This story, I think I wasn't watching CNBC all day today, but I heard. I mean, they just beat these stories to death. They must have mentioned this several times today about Trump possibly going after Amazon, even though there was nothing that was given from the White House. I just think a lot of these things, it's just kind of an excuse to sell off. A lot of names are breaking down. A lot of the momentum names have been breaking down. We saw this big reversal bar yesterday in Amazon. So what generally happens once the generals of the stock market get taken out, they're usually the last. We saw this the last time that Amazon fell and it was bid right back up. Notice that it's the first time below the 50-day moving average in a while for Amazon. I'm not going to go all the way back, but you could see it's not even on my chart the last time we broke below the 50-day moving average. We'll see if buyers come back into it. You can see it's kind of a hammer-looking bar, but it's a gap down at this point. So, and a gap into the March value area. It's got to reclaim the 50-day moving average. So we'll see what comes of this tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, this was the last time that we noticed, by the way, that the price is higher from the last time that we dipped. So it's kind of interesting that it has made some progress, even though we've had this big move down. So I think that's kind of the story. I think Google also is still below the 200-day moving average. That is broken down. Netflix, might as well just go over these quickly. At the 50-day moving average, you got a sell signal here. So a lot of things. This is like one of the besides yesterday, the big bearish engulfing candle here. You do have the first day of a break. So option activity, I could tell you this much. Just not a lot on the call side. There's a couple names that I'll go over for option activity, but I think right now, and this is kind of what I said in the morning, I said you kind of just have to let this work its way through. Being that the generals are breaking down, and start to look for some confirmation. I don't think we're really seeing much confirmation. We did see some other sectors outperform, but a lot of these sectors are really in big downtrends. IYR REITs were your biggest outperformer in terms of groups. This was up 1.9% today, but way below the 200-day moving average. If you want to, you could, if you really like the REITs group, you could use the top of value as your stop. We are going to be in April soon, which is going to be here, so we'll probably open up inside value. These areas, they just don't, and unless there's some, the best performers out of the group. XLP saw some call buying today. Again, kind of, it seems like almost like a dead cat bounce. These names have been under pressure a lot. These have been your worst performers, and so at some point they're absolutely were due for a bounce, which I think they got today. So we saw a little bit of call buying in XLP. We saw a little bit of call buying in Pepsi. Note Constellation Brands reports tomorrow, but I mean, I'm not a fan of this chart at all. Sure, it's got some support, and like I said, if you caught the bounce in this, congratulations to you. But I'm not a fan of going into these names that are in downtrends and below the 200-day moving average. Kind of just felt like a safety play. A couple other groups that outperformed today. I'm going to talk a little bit about biotech. There was some decent moves, but again, I mean, look at some of these charts. Celgene, so if you're a trend trader, I am a trend trader, and I like to play with the trend. I like when names retake the 200-day moving average, but um, you know, this thing was up 3% today, but look at where it is. I mean, for you to say that you bought at 85 at the absolute low, I mean, this stock looks ridiculous. So it did see. I've got Celgene up here. Did see some call buying today. What I look for, a couple things. IBB is this is the market cap weighted ETF. Notice this is below the 200-day moving average. I don't really trade IBB too much anymore. I trade XBI. This I think is really good to pay attention to for the next couple days. It did not. We did not get a big bounce other than hanging around at that a hammer bar at the 200-day moving average. A lot of stocks are at the 200-day moving average. What I would look for in the next couple days, usually when we have a dip, this is a bigger dip, and this has been ongoing now for a while. But biotech usually leads us out of this. It's happened several times where biotech will actually be one of those sectors that will actually be a good proxy for risk, and money will start flowing back into XBI, and it will start to rip. So that's something to watch. I don't know if that's going to happen tomorrow, but maybe for next week. I do think that we are due for a squeeze. We certainly got that squeeze in the beginning of the week. Just one day basically, but still, I mean, it's a trade. And I think we're set up for that too. I think the fear and greed index is down to like a 6 or a 7 or something like that. So that, and the put volume is just overly to the is way abnormal. So that sets for contrarian buy signal for a day, maybe 2 days, until buyers come back into this market. So you just kind of have to sit on your hands and wait for some of those things like biotech to start to perform. This caught my eye because we did see some call buying in this several times today. You can see the April 90 calls were bought several times. I caught this in the morning as well as the afternoon. So I think that's interesting. Also, talking about the 200-day moving average, ATVI was another name. This is a gamer that's really, all the gaming stocks have gotten beaten up pretty badly the last couple days, but another name at the 200-day moving average, and saw some put selling as well as some call buying. So we could take a look at the transactions. There was 8,000 of the April 62.5 calls. Notice the 62.5 puts is down here. So someone making a stand, and then they also bought a little bit of calls as well. They bought the March, looks like some weeklies, and I think it was 600 contracts of the April 60 calls. Nice looking chunky trade. This is in the money calls that went up. That they bought for April. It's a $400,000 transaction. Might as well just go ahead and look at the Qs chart and the IWM chart. Qs have gotten pretty beaten up here the last couple of days. They are not down to the 200-day moving average, but they may be headed there. So that's down there. We'll look at IWM as well. The small caps looking very similar to the downside here, not oversold. You got that 200-day moving average also coming up here. The way that they were buying the SPY puts today, I'll just kind of show you what they were doing. We had some bond auctions again. This week, I believe it's the highest debt offering ever. The largest debt offering this week. Multiple government auctions this week, but the highest amount of debt that we've ever sold in a given week. And it didn't really go too well. The 7-year went out at 1 o'clock, and I think 2 basis points higher than what was expected. I guess it's 272. I think it was expected to be 270 for this. So, I think the market was a little bit jumpy around this. And if you don't believe me that there's something going on with these bonds, take a look. Before they had this auction, the auction was at 1 o'clock. Take a look at all the SPY put buying. Just crazy, huge amount of SPY puts. I mean, and these are not small transactions. This was one here, SPY puts Again, mostly short dated stuff, but $556,000. Another put order 5 minutes later for 287,000. Another block 5,000 for 400,000 in premium. Another one right after that for 370,000. Again, very short dated April 13th. Another order coming in here for 5,000. This was just another 30 seconds later, 580,000. Another one coming in. So they really went after these SPY puts. And again, all before this auction. Once the auction happened at 1 p.m., they kind of stopped. But you could see over and over and over puts aggressive, not just puts going up like on mid market. They're sweeping, they're going above the ask for all these. Look at this, above the ask, above the ask, and sweep opening puts. So you know, again, most of this is pretty short dated, but it seems like someone is really wants the S&P to go below the 200-day moving average. It just looks like that's what the motivation is with this. So what do you do with this, and how do you react to this? I think right now with what's going on, with this type of order flow, you kind of have to wait until the buyers come back in. We just haven't had that happen at all. So if you go to the option flow for the day, you can see I've got some orders on here, but it's really small stuff. Pepsi, the repeat XBI, I thought was interesting. I mentioned the ATBI, some order flow that went up against open interest and SGMS. There was a little bit of Micron calls today, but again, look at the puts, and I don't even have all those SPY orders on here because it's just too many to count. But and this is mostly the order flow in the first 10 or 15 minutes. They went after some Microsoft puts, they went after Tesla puts, Salesforce puts, Q's puts, Apple puts. So again, really skewed to the put side. So it seems like they're getting this out of their system in terms of pressing to the downside. But I'm not going to go ahead and catch a falling knife here in this market. I'm going to wait for some confirmation. The fact that buyers need to come back into this market. There's been a buyer streak now for ongoing. So sorry to be negative on this video, but it is what it is. We have to see something change here. Otherwise, for me, I'm just going to kind of stay out of this market. I did trade a couple things today. I'm trying to trade very, very light right now. I thought the MLCO order from yesterday was interesting. The casino names, it's basically was just down 2% today. That's where I'll show you the order from yesterday, MLCO. We do have the Macau numbers that are coming out. They come out, I think, either they'll probably be out Monday morning, I would assume. But 16,000 of these, they purchased what appears to be a purchase from yesterday. They bought these for 65 cents. I took advantage of the stock being down well over 1% today, and I bought some for 45 cents today, 20 cents cheaper. And it's kind of like a lotto play. I think it will. I don't know their intent of buying these, but I'm assuming it could be a play on Macau, and I view it as a binary trade. So, I took a small trade in this. I also bought a tiny bit of ATBI, something that has firm level of support. Again, doesn't mean that 200-day moving average is going to hold up, but at least there's a pretty good level there to trade against. All right, so that's today's video, and we'll just kind of have to see if these buyers come in. I don't know if that's going to happen tomorrow. I think tomorrow might be a tricky day, considering it's the last day before a 3-day weekend, which I view as typically a tougher day to trade, and you've got quarter end and month end tomorrow. So it could be another day of sitting on my hands and just waiting for next week for buyers maybe to kind of think about it over the weekend and see if they want to come back into this market and defend. At this point, regardless of all all the put activity today, I think some names have really been washed out. And I don't know how much more, I don't think it's a great opportunity to play on the short side other than for scalping. If the VIX is going to really continue to edge up higher, and if we do break that 200-day moving average, I think it may be similar to when we've seen the 50-day moving average and the 100-day moving average taken out, you could really see some fast moves to the downside. So if that happens, I would really be watching that, and you may be able to really scout very nicely on that move happening if it does break the 200-day moving average tomorrow, and we see a whoosh. All right, guys, thanks for watching the video, and have a great night.